list of values, not selected, all cool so far. And so here is the resource which I'm creating as I go. So here is where I am claiming conformance to that profile. So I select the profile. My server would have to prove I created things to it. There is my coding that I put in, there's my value set. I should now be able to save that resource. And it's done. So the resource has now been saved. So what I've done, let's just go back to the presentation. Is I have actually done that. So I created pretty much all those artifacts on the fly. I created those registry components, the profiling components, the value sets, and then from that I created a real instance of a resource which I saved in a repository with a link back to the registry. So that's how profiling works. And again, the purpose of the tooling, of the FHIR tooling, is to let you go out and start playing with this stuff yourself to get a feel for how the whole lot hangs together. Okay, any questions? Oh, you're good. It has to be quick, by the way, I'm running out of time. So
could you constrain a value using regular expression or a formula that would be useful for FHIs, for example?
I think you can. I'd have to check on that one. You go and look at the spec. Actually, I might just, sorry, is the quick question?
I think so.
Yep.
Your value sets
Yep.
that you create,
Yep.
are they editable by others?
There's nothing in the specification that stops that from occurring. If you wanted that to occur, we'd need to set up a security around it. That might be an example why we might choose to do our own registry. That sort of thing. So, good question. Oh, there's all sorts of possibilities. Again, this is nothing about FHIR. This is how an IT system should work. So there's plenty of stuff left to think about.
Can you constrain your value set to a specific version of that value set?
I believe that you can, yes. Of the terminology. Yeah. Okay. Well, sorry, I'll come back to questions if we have it at the end, but I've only got a quarter of an hour, so if, let me carry on. Come and see me at the break and see what we talk about. Okay, so we've created the profile. A couple of things I kind of want to talk about was the conformance resource. We've talked a lot about what things servers can do. FHIR spec is huge. It's actually really, really big. It's mind-numbingly big. Don't panic when you look at FHIR. But a server can only do so much of that. How do you know what a server can actually do? And the answer is in the conformance resource. So every server, and a server is something which implements FHIR type interfaces, has to publish a conformance resource which says what it can do, which resources it supports, which profiles it supports, what APIs it's got, what messages, and so on and so forth. So you can always interrogate a FHIR server to determine its capabilities. And in actual fact, you might not have noticed, but in some of the search screens that I showed you in the FHIR tool, they were using the conformance resource under the hood to figure out what I could search on, and I built a UI based on that conformance resource. Another one that's important and is coming up is the implementation guide. I've only shown you one profile on one resource, but even in that, I created about 4 different other resources. Now, they're all reusable, and a lot of our thinking needs to be, how do we create stuff which is reusable and not too specific? But the fact of the matter is, if I wanted to tell someone about all of that, I need a way of bundling it up, and that's what the implementation guide is to do. It's a bit of a work in progress right now. We're sort of working on it pretty hard, but the principle of it is we want a single resource which binds together everything involved in an implementation guide in both a computable way, but also in a way that just generates the documentation. If the whole thing's full of documentation, you should be able to just put a button and documentation spits out. Because we're really bad at documentation. I'm just going to touch on some of these things, like the digital ecosystem supported by FHIR. If you look ahead, this is, I think, the sort of thing that we would really like to achieve. I think we need a system whereby we have a whole series of resources that are available for people to build cool new apps on. Probably mobile apps, because that's where all the fun is. We're going to need a few things to support that vision, if you like. And they're either within New Zealand or they're external and we choose to use them. We need terminology servers. I think as you saw, a terminology server is fantastically useful. We need registries to store the artifacts we create. We need identity servers. We've got the NHI, of course, but we might want to think of putting a slightly more friendly face on it. You need repositories. But the purpose of FHIR is to provide that middle layer, to provide that way of exposing the information and being able to access it. I haven't talked at all about security. I'm not going to because it's a huge topic. Obviously, these solutions need to be secure, and there are ways of doing that. And of course, if we do such a thing, we then can do stuff like they do with smarts. Now, I don't know how many of you were at the HINS conference last year, but we had the inventor of smart, Josh Mandel, across. But this is the concept whereby people can build little applications that can work across different systems. And they can only do that if there's a standardised underpinning underneath that. FHIR supporting the ecosystem, common ways of representing data, and moving. This is all probably pretty straightforward. I guess one of the things is we need to start. We want to do this. If this is a good idea, we need to start thinking about how we're actually going to put it into place. Tooling. I just wanted to talk about tooling very briefly. You've seen the FHIR type tool, but there's, in fact, you've actually seen two sets of tools. You've seen the use of demo servers. So right here, right now, there are demo servers out there that you can use to see how this stuff actually works. And you saw me saving stuff, querying stuff, all that sort of thing. FHIR, you know, I can't say this enough. FHIR was built with the implementer in mind. From the very, very beginning, we've had tooling to support the standards development, and it's never been done before. It's not in the HL7 world anyway. There are libraries available. You know, there are standardised libraries to assist some of these developments. In various different languages, Java, C#, and so forth. Reference implementations and so forth. So there's a lot of resource that's out there. There's an enormous community. So the community, there's lots and lots of open source software that has become available. We really want people to give feedback, and just maybe I should just indicate where. If you go into the specification, there, if you go to the bottom of any single page, you will see a link here. And that link in turn will take you to a place where you can make a comment about anything you want to. I think you need an account to do this on GForge. They're freely available. If you want to do this, give me a shout and I'll get you set up with an account. But this is where you can go into any resource and you can say, I think this should do, or I don't like that, or whatever. And the authors of FHIR will see that and will comment on it. And it's available to absolutely anybody. Okay, so I'm now going to revisit those 2 or 3 or 4 slides I put right at the beginning. So where could we use FHIR in New Zealand? But where's a place that we could do it? And the first one that I did was the record locator service. And so here's an example. This is actually a slide that's a good year and a half old. Okay? But what it shows is the parts of an XDS type implementation, but using FHIR interfaces rather than sort of EVXML. We could implement this as a layer in front of an existing XDS repository, or we could do it natively using the existing functionalities out there. I could do all of this using Graham's server if I wanted to. And although I'm showing this as being RESTful type interfaces, there's nothing to stop us using things like messaging. Messaging might make more sense for XDS, because it might make more sense if I'm a hospital to create my discharge summary, which can be a PDF, whatever you like, and then submit that to the XDS, the FHIRized XDS infrastructure. This is something we could do relatively quickly. Talk about patient portals. So, you know, and being able to access data from the patient portal through to other systems. And really, against all of these things, I put the RESTful interfaces. And I think because this depends on the holders of data providing ways for other systems to consume that data. Obviously within the constraints of security, privacy, and all that kind of stuff. But nevertheless, there are now technical solutions to these problems. Not a technology problem that's stopping sharing. Same with secondary care and other portal data. I mean, this is a bit of a hot topic of mine. What's the point of having a patient portal if it only accesses one set of data? How many patients are going to want to go to 2 or 3 different portals to get their holistic view? Doesn't make sense. We've got to think about ways of opening it up. And then I've got a couple of resources here. That audit event is quite interesting. Audit event is one that does that indicates that something has happened. So that's a way that a patient could find out who's been accessing my record. Patient data entry, observations, and so on and so forth. EMR integration. Gee, I love this. You know, I mean, that's where a lot of this really useful stuff actually sits. You know, and we've talked before, I'm sure you guys have been to various forums where people see patient portals and what do patients want to do? Well, they want appointments, they want to treat medications, they want to go contact their doc. You know, so if you're inside a single vendor's ecosystem, well, you may be able to do that. Step outside of it, you're in trouble. And I think we need to be widening it up. Again, I don't think this is a technical problem. These are other issues. And consistent coding, value sets. That's really why I harped on a bit about the value sets earlier on. If we want to get data, we want to derive meaningful observations from them, the stuff has got to be high quality. And we can achieve that. We can achieve that today using value sets. Mobile devices. A lot of what I was doing in the FHIR stuff actually, I think, highlighted what you could do in a mobile as well. Making RESTful queries, getting the data that you want when you want it, making appropriate queries and so on and so forth. I was using JSON behind the scenes to cut down the bandwidth. The stuff will actually compress pretty well. And again, an application, a mobile application, tends to be focused on a particular set of functionality rather than trying to be a whole EMR system. And again, FHIR can do that. FHIR on the wire. What do we do? We've got CDA, we've got V2 out there. How do we deal with that? Well, actually, it's not that hard. Particularly we'll start with V2 messages. V2 messages map reasonably well to FHIR resources at that segment level, as I explained. And here's an example of a simple V2 message, and really there's almost a one-to-one mapping between FHIR resources. So we could use that either to create messages, or we could just simply use to suck the data out. We could do that ourselves, but there are vendors now that are stepping up to the mark to actually create tooling that will let us do this sort of stuff a lot more easily. It's perfectly feasible. This is an example of shredding a V2 message. This is how we might have a processor of some sort, integration engine of some sort, which can take in that V2 message. There's actually a bit of thinking to be done around it, particularly patient identity and such like, so it's a tad more complicated than I showed you before. But the technology isn't really the problem. It's what we want to do and how we want to do it. CDA, same sort of concept, but CDA is a little bit harder. We're actually really lucky in New Zealand, and I'm going to say something nice about Alistair again. That's twice. Where is it? There it is. What we've done with CDA in New Zealand is we've actually tightly constrained our definition of CDA. We actually complained about it. I complained about it to start out with, and I got converted. But actually, that's a godsend, because for us, what we can put in a CDA document is actually relatively constrained. And that makes it a heck of a lot easier to map it into FHIR. One of the big things we're doing out there in the international community is trying to map CCDA into FHIR. And that is not a trivial task. It is really non-trivial. So for us, it's going to be quite a lot easier. Okay, just wrapping up now. Only a couple more slides to go. So, where next in New Zealand? What should we be doing next? What are the sorts of things that we should plan? So I think the first thing is we're looking at an update to the interoperability and reference architecture. I think that's going to be an opportunity for us to start thinking about some of these new technologies and about how we might apply them in our New Zealand situation. We need to think about governance. As I showed you and as you pointed out, it's very easy to do stuff. It's almost too easy. You could imagine that 3 people could create a value set for e-week. Who would know? So we need to think about how we do it. And I don't mean governance is heavy-handed. It's more like organisation. It's more like how do we do the stuff and do it once? And what should we do? How can we reuse what other people have done? We need to be thinking about infrastructure. We need to be thinking about some of the bits that we need, the registries, the identity service. Obviously security has got to be high up there. Terminology. I mean, that's just so important to get it right. I put funding on there because I always like to put funding on there when I have the opportunity. I was going to put that love without a budget, but I decided not to because I thought that might be bad. Pilots. We should be thinking about small pilots. What can we do in a relatively constrained area to start testing this out, start moving? terminology service, the record location. There's stuff that we could be doing that actually will get us on this road. And so this is it. This is the ultimate slide. These are my success markers. If these happen, I'm going to be a happy chap. If I stirred your interest in fire to the point where you want to go away and have a look at the spec yourself, or you want to consider using fire in your own projects, it would be great to see fire in the interoperability reference architecture. It'd be great to get people feeding back into that as we go through the thing. We have demand for more training. We've skipped over a number of things here. And also we've talked a lot of background and stuff. It would be great to think about training. Connect-a-thons. Connect-a-thons are really fun because we actually get people sitting in the room doing stuff. Maybe we could be thinking about doing those in New Zealand. We have real pilots. It would be lovely if the Ministry of Health started to think about fire in some of the key areas. And we've got an NHI. In heavens, not many people have got one of those things. It's a wonderful, wonderful start for us. What can we do with that? The terminology service I've talked about and other ecosystem services. So that's it. That's my talk. I'm almost at time. But I'm happy to handle any other questions. Correct.
Just one to get perhaps, but the New Zealand government has recently endorsed FHIR, actually all of the HL7 standards, but especially FHIR, if I'm not mistaken, elsewhere. So this is, I think, the first from the government for a child standard, which should give you the impression, the idea that this is really something that FHIR is investing on.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Yes, the New Zealand government's actually the first to come out and say that we think fire is good. It's been implemented around the world, but at a governmental level, we're the first. So, any other questions before we break? Yeah.
Can I ask, could you elaborate the concept of repository of it? Because the reason I'm asking is that I'm not sure whether repository is a portal or a database. If it's a database, if you have created all the patient records in it, then gradually it becomes a perhaps national database, which is great. It's like a single record of patients, which is great for the implementers and patients, but it's sort of more than a interoperability framework, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I use the term repository very loosely, and really all I mean by that is something that can expose data via a FHIR interface. I don't care whether it's a big one in the cloud or whether it's an add-on to an existing system. All I mean by repository is it's a place that can take in and deliver FHIR resources, whether it's storing those FHIR resources, whether it's in another system, program HR, access database, whatever. I simply mean it as that.
So it's more of a portal.
It's not, I wouldn't have said it's a portal. Think of it as just being, if you can take in a FHIR interface, if I could do your system what I was doing before, I'd call that a repository.
It's a persistence layer.
It's a persistence layer. Yeah, it's a place where you can store stuff in any format.
I've just got a comment around the idea of FHIR supporting implementers.
Yep.
And one of the big challenges when it comes to healthcare systems is how to basically move to standards which advance the state of medical research without any question. And I would really like everyone to kind of focus on the implementers as like the infrastructure implementers who are EHRs, the AMS system vendors, and then we've got app implementers. And one of the big projects which Apple is spearheading app implementers is the research kit, which is open source, and I haven't seen a really good bridge between those two, but because Apple also provides a health kit, so the research kit is an open source project, and if you can use some sample cases for FHIR usage and that will be a great plan.
But you have the opportunity to promote that.
Sorry, are there any available public mappings between version 2 and 5 that can be used?
There's a yes and a no. If you go into the spec for any resource and go up to the top, you'll see a tab that says mappings, and you'll see some samples in there. The problem is, every version 2 implementation is different. So we've hit this issue ourselves. I like to think within New Zealand, we might be able to come up with more common things. But this is really where the community stuff is all about. We need to think about how do we get a community to do this so we can reuse it. So, what a fantastic answer to the best.
Just want to question about the elephant in the room of security. Where would I go to learn more about what's being talked about as far as security?
If you go into the spec, there's a link that says security,
Yep.
which will talk about a whole lot of stuff. Go and have a look in there. It's a topic in and of itself, which is why.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Would you have time later on to show us how to, let's say if you have a resource, how to test for conformance? You mentioned there are tools there, right?
There are
That
tools.
can
I
test-
don't have them access to them here. I can point you at them. And the easiest way, to be honest, would be if you send me an email after this, I'll put you in contact with that. It's a non-trivial task. It's a work in progress. So, yeah.
How much buy-in did FHIR has achieved so far regarding the buy-in from the vendors, particularly like the education management system is a very good example. Yeah, softwares like Medtex or Detective or those key drivers that actually influence a solution that's processed around different systems.
Enormous. In the US, Project Argonaut was put together, and the vendors put up something like $600,000 in order to fund FHIR development. And that came from Epic and Cerner and those sorts of things. I think we've got someone from EdTech in the room, hopefully. Yeah, excellent. That's right. So I'm hopeful that we're going to see the PMS vendors coming on board. I'd really like to facilitate that. Internationally, huge. Locally, it's evolving. I'll call time at this point, and I will just...
Can I formally thank you for your excellent and motivational presentation if you're finished?